Have you ever wanted to do something just for you and immediately heard a voice in your head talk you out of it? That's not safe. What will people think? Who do you think you are? So you shrink the idea down, or you wait for permission, or you just don't go. Most of us have done this more times than we'd like to admit. We've spent years, sometimes decades, putting everyone else first, staying small, talking ourselves out of the very things we wanted most. So here's the question. What does it actually take to stop doing that? Because I almost didn't find out. At 69, I planned a solo trip to Spain, and right up until I got on that plane, every old voice I'd ever internalized was telling me not to go. Welcome to Lessons for Life with Grandma Kate. If you're done with people-pleasing, tired of repeating the same patterns, and ready to learn what healthy relationships actually look like, you're in the right place. I get it. I was there too. At 65, I started learning the things I'd wish I'd known decades ago, like how to see the patterns, why we keep repeating them, and how to finally treat ourselves with the respect we always deserved. And somewhere along the way, I realized something that changed everything. When we don't understand our patterns, we pass them on, not because we're bad parents, but because no one ever showed us anything different. That realization drives everything I do. So join my free weekly email community by signing up for my cheat sheet, See the Pattern, Now What? For each episode, I'll help you name the pattern, show how it shows up in your life, explain the cost, and how to respond differently. Find the link in the show notes or visit lessonsforlifewithgrandmakate.com. Like a lighthouse, steady and strong, let's all shine a little brighter today. It's easy to think that once we see a pattern, we'll naturally avoid repeating it. We tell ourselves, now that I know better, I'll do better. But that's not how lasting change works. You can see all the behaviors of the person you never want to become, promise yourself you'll be different, and still find yourself reacting the same way. Why? Because seeing a pattern and breaking a pattern are two completely different skills. Awareness tells you what needs to change, but awareness doesn't tell you how to respond when you're tired, frustrated, hurt, scared, or overwhelmed. That's when the old pattern feels familiar, automatic, and safe. It's the response you've been conditioned for years. That's where self-trust comes in. To me, self-trust isn't believing you'll never make another mistake. Self-trust is believing that when life gives you a choice, you trust yourself enough to respond in a way that's consistent with the person you want to become. It's trusting yourself to pause before you speak, so you are listening to learn and not to win the argument. To get out and take a walk when you don't want to because you value your health. To say no when you are tired and emotionally drained instead of constant people-pleasing. Because every time your response matches your values, something inside you changes. You feel more yourself. And when your behavior doesn't match your values, you feel that conflict inside you, that uncomfortable feeling in your body, that sense of, this isn't the person I want to be. That's incongruence. However, every time you choose a response that's aligned with your values, you collect evidence. Evidence that you can change. Evidence that your past doesn't have to determine your future. Evidence that you can trust yourself. And every piece of evidence strengthens that trust. Every time you choose your values over your conditioned response you've used for years, you're weakening the old pattern and strengthening a new one. That's how patterns change. That's how self-trust grows. And that's how you become the person you've wanted to be all along. In January of this year, I made myself a promise. I was going to do things that scared me. Not reckless things, not things for anyone else. Things that scared me because they were mine. So I booked a solo trip to Europe by myself. No one else's schedule, no one else's agenda, just me. And immediately, every voice I'd spent a lifetime hearing shouted at me to talk me out of it. My husband's voice, my kids' voices, other family members. You can't travel alone. That's not safe. You're 69 years old. Who does that at 69? Spouses travel together. But here's what I noticed about those voices. Not one of them was originally mine. I'd borrowed them from my marriage, from my family, from decades of putting everyone else's comfort ahead of my own instincts. I'd carried them so long they felt like my own thoughts. That's what conditioning does. It doesn't announce itself. It just sounds like common sense. But 5 months later, I got on the plane anyway. And what happened wasn't one dramatic moment of transformation. There were dozens of small ones. Every single day became a quiet act of self-trust. Getting myself to the right train station. Figuring out what to do when I thought I'd missed one. Eating what I wanted, when I wanted, at whatever pace felt right to me. Sitting on a bench in the middle of Barcelona and just being there. No one pushing me to keep moving. No one else's timeline. Sitting in a pew at the Sagrada Familia for as long as I wanted and not moving until I was ready. Those might sound like small things. They weren't. Every one of them was a moment where old conditioning said, hurry up, be careful, check with someone first. But I chose myself instead. I came home different, not because Europe changed me, because I finally had evidence. Evidence that I can carry my own luggage, that I can get lost and find my way, sometimes with strangers' help, and that's okay too. That I make good decisions, that I can take time for myself and the world doesn't fall apart without me. That's self-trust. Not the certainty that nothing will go wrong, but the belief that when something does, you can handle it. Here are 5 ways I've learned to build self-trust. I hope they will help you also. Number 1, get clear on the person you want to become. You can't build self-trust if you don't know what you're trying to trust yourself to become. So ask yourself, not what do I want to achieve, not what do I want to own, but who do I want to be? How do I want to treat people? What kind of partner do I want to be? What kind of parent? What kind of friend? How do I want to respond under pressure? Those answers become your compass. And without one, your conditioning will keep making your decisions for you. And number 2, notice when your conditioning shows up. This is what I call see the pattern. Not judging yourself, just noticing. I'm people-pleasing again. Oh, I'm shutting down. I'm trying to win instead of understanding. I'm talking myself out of something I really want. Awareness isn't the finish line. It's the starting line. And number 3, choose one response that matches your values. This is the now what. You don't have to become a whole new person today. Just ask yourself, what's one response that matches the person I want to become? Maybe it's a pause before answering, taking a walk when you are tired, saying no even if you feel guilty, booking that trip, having that hard conversation. Self-trust isn't built through huge decisions. It's built one different response at a time. And number 4, let the discomfort be there. This one's big. Most of us think if this feels uncomfortable, it must be wrong. It doesn't mean that. It feels uncomfortable because your conditioning is familiar and your new response isn't. You're not just changing behavior. You're changing decades of conditioning. Of course it feels strange. That doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. It might mean you're finally on the right one. And here's something else worth knowing. Some days, you'll slip. You'll snap when you mean to pause. You'll say yes when you mean to say no. Old conditioning doesn't disappear just because you've started noticing it. That doesn't erase the evidence you've already built. It just means you're human, and change isn't a straight line. The goal was never zero mistakes. It was a better choice than before. And number 5, collect evidence every day. This is where self-trust actually grows. At the end of the day, ask yourself, where did I choose my values today? Maybe it was tiny. Maybe you actually listened instead of interrupting. Maybe you drank the water instead of skipping it. Maybe you kept one promise to yourself. Don't overlook those moments. Everyone is evidence. Evidence becomes self-trust. Self-trust makes the next response easier. And eventually, you stop trying to become that person and realize you already are. If you want to raise kids who trust themselves, they need to see it first. Self-trust isn't something we teach with a lecture. It's something kids absorb by watching how the adults around them handle the moment between feeling something and responding to it. So let them see it in the small, ordinary moments. Let them hear you say no to something you'd normally agree to just because you're tired. That's choosing self-respect over people-pleasing. Every time you choose your values over your conditioning, you strengthen your self-trust. Let them watch you walk away from an argument mid-sentence and come back to it later, calmer. That's choosing understanding over winning. Every time you choose your values over your conditioning, you strengthen your self-trust. Let them see you try something new and mess it up without apologizing for it. That's choosing growth over fear of failure. And every time you choose your values over your conditioning, you strengthen your self-trust. People can change, and when kids watch an adult choose differently than they would have a year ago, that's the lesson, long before any words are spoken. And when they take their own first wobbly steps toward that, when your child tells the truth even though it's hard, or walks away instead of arguing, or keeps trying after getting frustrated, that's the moment to notice it out loud. Not good job, something more specific. I noticed you told the truth even though it was hard. I noticed you walked away instead of arguing. I noticed you can change your mind when you learn something new. You're not praising the outcome. You're reflecting the response. Children don't learn self-trust because we tell them to trust themselves. They learn it by watching us trust ourselves enough to live according to our values. You don't build self-trust by deciding to be a different person. You build it by making one different choice, and then another, and then another. It won't always feel brave. Most of the time it'll feel small. Saying no to something you'd normally agree to. Sitting on a bench when someone wants you to keep moving. Getting on a plane when every voice in your head is telling you not to. But those small choices are evidence. Evidence that you are not your conditioning. Evidence that your past doesn't have to determine your future. Evidence that you can trust yourself. The person you've been wanting to become isn't waiting for you somewhere down the road. It's already an everyday choice you make that's aligned with your values instead of your conditioning. Every time you choose your values over your conditioned response, you get a little stronger, a little more real, a little more you. Tomorrow, when life gives you a choice, ask yourself one simple question. What would the person I want to become do? Whether you're starting to understand yourself more clearly or learning to do things differently, you're building the skills to grow into the person you're meant to be. Listening is important, but real change happens when you use what you've learned. That's why I've created a cheat sheet, See the Pattern Now What, for today's episode. Join my free weekly email community. Each week, I'll help you name the pattern, show how it shows up in your life, explain the cost, and how to respond differently. Find the link in the show notes or visit lessonsforlifewithgrandmakate.com. And if you want more life lessons like this, be sure to follow Lessons for Life with Grandma Kate on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. If this episode resonated with you, there's a link in the show notes to show your appreciation. Either way, I'm grateful for you being here. If no one has told you lately, everything will be okay. Tomorrow is a new day, and with it comes new hope. As I conclude this episode, I must state that this podcast is designed solely for educational and entertainment purposes. While I bring my experience as a parent and grandparent, it's essential that you know I am not a licensed therapist. This podcast is not a substitute for professional advice from a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professional. Got it? Awesome. Until next time, what is one thing you are grateful for?